Well, good evening. We just gonna hop right into stuff. Welcome to Dialect. So, for any of you guys that are following us on social, I had already put out a little post earlier just saying that this one's going to be just like a straight movie review, okay? So, we will be reviewing American Skin. It is the latest addition to Nate Parker's catalog. We're going to talk about a little bit about his genius later. I mean, I feel like he's a genius. I don't know what Spencer's thoughts are.
It was written by him, right?
Written, directed, just like Birth of a Nation, like he did the redo.
Then why does it say presented by Spike Lee?
Because Spike produced it.
So he put the money back.
Yeah, I think so. But I know like Birth of a Nation, that was all Nate. So I think that this was like his production or something.
Okay.
But I don't know, because I didn't see 40 Acres and a Mule attached to it. So I'm not quite sure what Spike's contribution to this was. That's irrelevant.
Presented by.
Right.
Everybody's talking about Spike Lee's new movie, but it's like...
And I thought it was. Me too. I made that mistake. I thought it was Spike. And I mean, it wasn't. It was Nate. But...
Niggas took notes.
Whoo, buddy.
And niggas took notes.
So initially, I had not seen this movie. Since watching it 2 nights ago, I've seen it 3 times now. You're on your second. Twice. Okay. I initially wanted to sit down and have a conversation about blackness and how it is interpreted and or presented via corporations. I got this idea from watching another one of my favorite shows, Superstore. If you guys have not seen that and do not watch that, I would definitely recommend it for anyone who's ever worked a retail job, just because one, it's hilarious, somebody speaking our language. That's it. But as of the last couple of years, they've really kind of taken a bit of a turn with their discussions about like...
Wait, Superstore is different?
No, Superstore's always been...
Like that?
Been like this. They always have their little like cut scenes. Yeah. But then like last year they discussed a lot about like unions and joining a union and how that kind of affects, the company. And then the type of backhanded, underhanded things that big corporations will do to make the little man think that they've won, but in reality they didn't. So I'm just gonna spoil some shit for y'all real quick.
I should have got my foundation together.
Right. So last season they had this whole big thing about them creating a union. The employees actually did end up getting a union. They went on strike, the whole jazz. And then they thought, okay, we've got the union, we've got this pay raise coming, all these things are great. Come to find out that their company was going under and was being bought out by another company.
Wait. This is Superstore?
This is Superstore. It's okay, because I know that's not yours. But I'm just saying, like, they gave the employees everything they asked for because they knew in the end, by the time they got to the end of the month, that company would no longer exist. So it's like, yeah, we'll give you everything you want. And then they kept it very, very hush-hush that the company was being bought out. So everything that they fought for and did the strike for, it was almost in vain. So...
This had nothing to do with the episode that you forced me to watch.
It had nothing to do with that. But I just wanted you to get a sense of it. So last week's episode was all about hair care products. And, for all of us out there with, the good hair. Good hair is any hair that grows out your head, for me. I don't know. Other people think different things. I think if it grew out of your scalp and you can comb it and you can take care of it, it's good hair. But it was talking about how all of, the black hair care products are behind a lock and key. And you have to always go and get someone who works at the store to come and unlock all the stuff so you can then have your products. And any of us who have been into a drugstore, you know how they got the razors locked up. Your hair care stuff is always locked up. And so it became this whole big thing on the episode. Yeah.
Condoms, like.
Yeah. It became this whole big thing on the episode of, because we're in this time now where blackness is cool and blackness is in, we're now going to unlock this because all the things that we did in the company were racist beforehand. So by us unlocking the hair care products, we are now no longer racist. And then in true white folk fashion, they didn't really understand that you haven't done anything. This is a drop in the bucket. And so they keep like tripping over themselves to be apologetic for things that they purposefully did or that their ancestors did. And it just became a whole big ball of bullshit.
So it's like Starbucks.
There you go. Exactly. So they did this whole thing where they were like giving all the black employees pizza. And then they automatically told all the white people, oh, well, you can't eat pizza. So then the white folks were getting upset, like, well, why are they getting special treatment and we're not? And so then it became like they had this one black guy who was like the keeper of the pizza. He was like, well, sure, come on in. And then people are coming in and like telling their story of racist encounters or whatever it is. And for me, it was just funny to watch it because how many of us work at these companies where they start these initiatives or they want to hear our voices on things that are wrong with us so that we can sit there and, tell our story of trauma or woe or whatever it is that you want to call it. And then nothing has changed. We're still going into these environments. Like, I know that at my company, they made this whole big thing about making a safe place, making a group for the black advocates that work within my company and how we're going to listen to them and do things better by them. And while we're all, on surface talking about all the things that we're going to do for all the blacks and browns and anybody within our organization that looks like me, you're still actively sending us out. Hold on. You're still actively sending us out into the deep rural parts of New Jersey where I've got to go through Trump country and I'm walking into Confederate flags to do my deliveries. And when I'm telling you like, this isn't really a place that I feel safe or I feel comfortable. Yeah, but I mean, you got to do it anyway.
Question.
Yes.
This is before or after George Floyd?
During. Before and during. And after. Because there are parts that I will still drive through that have Confederate flags.
No, I'm talking about when the initiative started.
Oh, this was after.
Oh, okay.
This is after.
Reactionary.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So that's kind of what Superstore was about. That's what I wanted him to watch so we could really kind of dig into that. Things have shifted a smidge, and I know I spent, however many minutes talking about Superstore. It's still a great episode. I want y'all to go watch it, get your thoughts and opinions. But this really ain't what this episode's about. Today, we're going to discuss American Skin.
What's that look like?
What does what look like?
American Skin.
Oh.
Not the movie. I'm just saying, like, what does American Skin look like? I would assume it doesn't look like mine. Or yours.
Ideally, I would want to say anything that's a citizen. So it can be any shade. But I also understand the reality that my idealism is bullshit.
Okay. So, anything that's a citizen, is it fair underneath the law? I mean, if you're a citizen, does the Bill of Rights apply to citizens?
Yes.
But citizens ideally have no shade, no color.
We have every shade and every color.
No, but, no particular shade or color?
Oh, no, because we're the great American melting pot. Thank you, Schoolhouse Rock.
All right. Well, let's burst some myths.
Let me pull up my list.
America is not a melting pot. It's bullshit. But we're talking about American skin. So when I first watched it on the first watch, right? I believe that it's a tale of two Americas. My co-host over here says there's no such thing as two Americas.
There isn't.
I hope she's ready to die on that sword.
All day, every day.
That's the hill. That's the hill. All right, cool. Well, why do you say there's not two Americas?
There's not two Americas because America is running and operating the way that it was supposed to and intended.
Who wrote the Emancipation Proclamation?
Well, I know that Abraham Lincoln is the one who said it. I don't know if they had speechwriters back then, but we'll just say Abe Lincoln.
Okay, so you're from Philly.
I am.
Philly has such a rich history.
Okay.
The Liberty Bell and all that.
Okay.
One of the guys that was signing what was his last name?
Signing what?
Part of the Constitution.
Well, there was a lot of folks that signed. What are we?
Right, but we're talking about American skin.
Okay.
So you said Lincoln. If people look at the parallels between his first and last name, it's Lincoln Jefferson.
Oh, okay. Okay.
All right.
Mm-hmm.
The irony.
What's ironic?
We hold these truths to be
self-evident.
Mm-hmm.
That all men are created equal.
Right.
Okay.
However, what's illustrated here is that it's not the case. The undertones are, had it been two white people at midnight driving in a prestigious neighborhood, they wouldn't have gotten profiled. Meaning, Kajani, but his name would have been like Tom or Brandon, wouldn't have gotten shot by a cop for reaching out for his phone to record the incident. You don't agree? Obviously, they wouldn't be driving a crappy car.
Not necessarily true.
No?
No.
Okay. Let's go.
Because I know a lot of folks that grew up in the suburbs that didn't have
nice
the
cars?
best. Yeah.
Because we're told that, when you have something, poor people like to stunt and drive the nice cars, right? Because they can't afford it, but they want to look the part. And, wealth rule. Or a principle you should go. Your car shouldn't exceed, 10% of your yearly income.
Okay.
Right? He's driving a beat up Honda Civic in the movie through a neighborhood, and he's black.
Okay.
Profiled. How's he treated? What's the undertones before they even get the information on the vehicle? How is he being treated?
What do you mean for like as soon as they see him?
Yes.
Well, as soon as they see him, it's quick. Black guy in the wrong neighborhood. Or wrong neighborhood.
Okay. Anything else? Is he spoken to like a human being?
Now he's spoken to the way that a cop would talk to a person.
So if we go back to what Jefferson wrote.
Oh, we're gonna use Jefferson?
Oh yeah.
We're gonna use Tom?
Yeah.
With Sally? With Sally. In the back.
Mm-hmm.
In the love affair. That's what we doing?
No, we're not going that deep. What we're going is...
No, because I'm just saying, because he's the same person that argued that a black man was 3/5 of a man.
Mm-hmm.
And that was strictly so that they can have more, they wanted to have more voting right when it came to their property, right? But they didn't want they didn't want to have to pay taxes on their property. So that's how he came out to 3/5 of a man. So that's what we're going to take his words. I mean, we can, because
Lincoln,
but they weren't really intended for us. But
Lincoln, Jefferson. So it was cleverly written. Everything about this movie was, you young man, you sat there and you thought, and you pieced this together. Master.
That's exactly what I said. I want to touch on the genius that is Mr. Parker.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
We had to, spoiler alert.
Oh, this whole thing gonna be spoils. I'm sorry. So if you wanted to actually like watch it, you can most definitely do that. But I'm gonna tell you everything that happened. I'm sorry. I can't tell you something without telling you. I'm gonna try my best, but you're gonna get the gist. You're gonna get the gist.
A conversation was had, father and son. It's a conversation that was had that most of us have to have.
Oh, wait, before you get into that, because that's my second bullet point. Okay. So my first bullet point that I had is we want our kids to have better than we did, but the question is at what cost? So, Link in the movie has his character. He's, been in the Marines. He's come home after serving 2 tours. And he's now raising his son, doing what any responsible, adult will do. So he looked around his surroundings, found a school that he thought his son should go to, right? And the school just so happens to be in a primarily white neighborhood. And the only way that his son would be able to go to that school would be if he purchased a home there or if he worked in one of these schools. So he chose, well, look, I can't afford a home here. I'm going to work in the school. So he works in the school, and by doing that, it allows his son to attend.
A pass. I'm just going off of the words that was actually used.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
To get a pass.
So my thing is, I think you were getting ready to dig into this. There was a conversation that was had between Kajani and his friend that his dad walked in on. And I knew in that moment, and I hate to say it like this, but Kajani was going to be an issue. And I knew he was going to be an issue because the reality in which he's growing up and the advantages that his father has given for him or tried to give for him so that he could have a better future is hindering him because he doesn't realize the reality of his American skin. He doesn't realize that, yes, you may go to this white school. You may have been taught these laws that are the citizens' laws. But as a black person, you have to move and maneuver differently in society than the rest of our counterparts get to. And
can I just say something?
Go ahead.
Our argument was whether or not there's 2 Americas, right?
Yes.
People love to sit there and quote shit, such as perception is reality, right? So what it is that we're perceiving when we go out in society says, this is what my reality is. I am conscious of my skin. In fact, we would hope that other people are conscious of our skin. But what we're told or made to believe when white people say something like, I don't see color. Bullshit. And you know why? What made you think that we don't want to be seen? Like the spook that sat by the door. Should I stop?
Proceed.
2 Americas. We see your skin. Sometimes we're programmed to think automatically that we're less than. No? Programming. Schools. They got to a point in the movie where they talk about, just to piggyback on the taking your kid out of the public school, to then go to a different kind of school, a private school. Because public schools where black and brown kids go, they're ran like prisons.
They most certainly are. And
perception's reality. What am I perceiving? What am I taking in with my pupils at a young age? That I'm a threat. My kindergarten, I had to walk through a metal detector.
I did not.
You went to private school?
I went to private school up until my 11th and 12th grade year. And I can say for a fact, I didn't attend 11th grade at all. I went for one day. I walked in, for any of y'all who know, school doesn't exist anymore, but I walked in to Germantown High School the first day of 11th grade. I had never experienced going through a metal detector, having to do, and this is post Columbine and all the shootings. Like I went to school during that time period. But that I was in elementary school when Columbine popped off. But I walked in on that first day, and then going into metal detectors, then going into the actual classroom, us not having textbooks, or it was like, we're going to share the textbooks, or the textbooks were falling apart. Then going into what really set the day off for me, I went into the cafeteria for lunch, and I don't recall there being food. I don't know if there was or not, but I know that it was louder than it would be. And there were people fighting in a corner. There were people playing cards. It was culture shock for me. And when I walked out of school that day, I did not go back to high school until the following year.
So you just took a break.
I did. I did not go to high school. I mean, at this point, my mother and I, we had our issues. I had moved out of her house. She wasn't paying tuition for me to go back to my private Catholic all-girls school
tuition
that I went to. And what I did to keep myself aware and mentally alert, all of my friends that still went to that high school, let me see your homework.
Oh, let me ask you a question. Y'all brought lunch to school, or you was given food?
At my private school, we were given food.
Okay.
And it was food.
Okay.
Like,
so like on
vegetables
Fridays,
and
so Fridays when they said, "Oh, it's pizza," it wasn't like what y'all call hoagie rolls with.
No, it was legit.
Okay.
So I didn't know any of that. And for me, it's like, as I'm watching this movie, I can identify with Kajani because I've been him. And I can identify with Link because I'm currently him now. And trying to parent my children through the reality of what this is. Or I know for a fact that there were so many things that I did not talk to my children about because I'm like, this is heavy. And I don't ever want to lie to them, but I want to speak to them at their level, but also elevate it just a little, because my kids aren't dumb. And most of our children are not dumb at all. They're a lot smarter than they let on, or sometimes that we even, allow them to be. And I know for me, I don't know how many of y'all know, but my ex-husband is, I mean, he's half white. He might as well be all the way white, but that's not the point. What I'm saying is, if you look at my children, my best friend always used to joke with me, oh, when you go out, they're going to ask you, oh, you're such a good nanny with these kids, because my baby's see-through, okay? She translucent. No, shut up. So it was always like, I understand she's going to have a different reality than what I have. She's going to have a different racial experience than what I had. And I know that my youngest daughter said once, which like floored me. She asked her dad why mommy and her older sister were white and she was black.
we're going to take a little pause right there just to tell you guys to go ahead and like, share, and subscribe.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate it.
This is going to be deep, y'all.
Yo, so deep.
It's going to be deep.
Because I even want to go back and touch on some things from our last episode, because I've had a revelation since then. When I was talking about my rant about the white lady at work. And I realized what it was that was making me uncomfortable with her.
Wait.
What?
They don't know what you're talking about.
Oh,
so y'all gonna have to go back and then, to watch that episode.
Yeah.
And then, it will make sense.
Yeah.
When you was at your baby's translucent and your daughter said, hey, how come mommy is white and her sister and she's black?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think it was then when my daughter said that I realized, okay, all right, we got to talk about this stuff, because for her, I think blackness was just attributed to skin color, because her tone is darker.
Phenotype.
Yeah, it's darker than her sister and myself. But even then, I run around and call her my chocolate baby, and everybody else is like, that baby is nowhere near chocolate. She's not.
Not at all.
I'm like, she is. She's my little brown skin. They're like, she's not even halfway near brown skin. She might be caramel. It's like...
Yeah. I mean, she still won't pass the paper bag test, but still.
No.
Yeah, she's still a light baby.
I won't. She won't. Maybe my oldest daughter might. I don't know. But it was through seeing things through her eyes that I was like, okay, we now need to have discussions about race. But I don't ever want them to feel separatist. I don't want them to think that just because they look different than the kid next to them,
the fairer their skin is, somehow they're exalted above.
Oh, no, see, and see, you know what? And as a high yellow, there was nothing that I hated more than when someone would say to me, "Oh, girl, you got good hair," or, "Oh, you so pretty, you so fair skinned, you so light." I hated that. Absolutely hated it. Like, that's...
Because our experiences are this exact same.
And it pains me because there was nothing, and I guess it's the adverse for people who are actually like brown skin. There was nothing that I wanted more than melanin. I just wanted to be chocolate so bad, because I look at that skin tone, and for me, it's like, it's rich. It's like, it's luminous. It's everything that I wanted. And I'm not that at all. And I could not figure out why I was so pale and why people wanted to look like me or why they thought that was attractive. Now, I'm gorgeous, so don't think I have a complex.
But think about it.
But it took a while for me to get that
you
place.
To feel like that, right?
Yes.
I'm pretty sure there's probably some white people who feel the exact same way.
I'm pretty sure.
So
I've heard people with freckles say that. I've heard, I know true redheads that have said that.
If that wasn't the case, I mean, tanning salons is a big lucrative business. Why? Why y'all going tanning? You feel like you look better with a tan?
Right.
Just calling it like I see it.
Yeah. But I went on a tangent again. I'm sorry, y'all.
It's fine. Roles have reversed.
It's going to be a tangenty episode.
Not really, but just to piggyback.
Mm-hmm.
Because certain things I caught the second time around that I watched the movie, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize until I watched it again that Nate Parker's character Lincoln and the wife, they split.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They split. Seems like he had his son with him.
Yeah.
He put him in a good school because of where he worked. where he gave the kid a pass.
Mm-hmm.
I remember there being this little video clip that was floating around on social media of it looked like a life coach when he was asking all the kids on a field to
I remember this.
if you were raised with both your parents in the house, take 2 giant steps forward.
Yep.
And out the gate, you've seen a bunch of black kids standing on the line.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep. Then it was like if you had your own room, if you had like just little things that people who've had this will take for granted. And then it was like then once he got to the end of listing all these things, you see all of these white kids towards the front of the field. You see a bunch of black kids or a bunch of like Hispanic kids closer to the back of the field. And he's like, this right here represents the head start that you had in life.
That's without even mentioning the shackles.
Mm-hmm.
Systemic oppression. They point this stuff out in the movie very subtly, but it's there. So, you and your husband, y'all split. Y'all then have to have these conversations with your kids, all the while they're attending what kind of schools?
Charter schools.
Is that so? That's considered public?
Yeah, it's a public school.
What?
I was gonna say something spicy.
Well,
but I'm not gonna air.
They like spice.
I'm gonna do it. My kids go to charter school because my ex-husband was cheap. They got scholarships for private schools. He didn't want to do that. But that's also because he grew up in the county and went to a public school in the county. So for him, it's like, oh, they can go to public school. It's fine. But he didn't understand that a county public school, and I mean, they make Montgomery County public school is totally different than a Philadelphia County public school.
I didn't have the pleasure of attending school out here in Philadelphia. I'm a New York baby. But I would assume that part of the reason how we try to rationalize going to public schools, it's we want our kids to be well-rounded, like to grow up in an environment where there's different types of kids, and those different types of kids, guess what? They're probably living under the same circumstances regardless of the color of their skin. Mm-hmm. They said a cop in that movie pointed out it's a class issue.
That's Hollander. Officer Hollander. Yes.
And not a race issue.
Right. We've all heard this before.
Bullshit.
I think Steve Harvey said that bullshit too.
It's bullshit. Here's the reminder. No matter what status you have, how much money is in your bank account, whether you were a vet, a Marine, you fought for this country, at the end of the day, you're black. Anything to take away from that? You're black. You could be LeBron James. You could open up a school. You know what you're being told? By, what's this chick's? Is that Megyn Kelly that said this shit?
I don't know.
Don't misquote me. Because a lot of them, they have the same rhetoric that comes out their mouth. So I get confused with whoever said the bullshit, who quoted it. But it was the shut up and dribble comment.
Laura Ingraham.
Dumbass. So, this man, Lincoln Jefferson, he's a black man who puts his kid through a good school, into a good school. He's picking him up one night from a friend's house in a predominantly white neighborhood. Gets pulled over by 2 officers. complies with all their commands, and they are commands. It's different because police interactions are different, right?
Yeah, we've already had our argument about this. It'll probably get rehashed.
Oh yeah, like I said, we might go for 2 hours this time.
It this might be a twofer. You might have to get a pause and have to come back. But yeah, go ahead.
Brace yourself.
Go ahead.
He's very compliant and respectful towards their officers. Doesn't matter the color of your skin, the type of car you're driving, in the neighborhood that you're in, says you are a threat, which is then pointed out later on when the officers, so I guess he decided that, let me finally be honest about the interaction. Long story short, his son, who's now being educated in that good school, they're teaching them in that school, they're teaching them how the law is to be applied.
Right.
So his son is now put in a better school than what he was in, where they're actually teaching this young man how the law is to be applied. Yet he has to be taught the other lesson from his father, is the duality I'm talking about, the two Americas. That shit don't apply to you because you are black.
I disagree with the duality, but proceed.
Okay.
No, because what this is the way that I interpret it. It's the same equivalent of you're multifaceted, right? So the person that you are when you're at home, the person that you are when you're at work, the person that you are when you're at school. These are different sides of you. It's not a different you. It's just you're going to show different people different sides. So yes, he definitely needs to know.
Time out. Now, is that a coping mechanism that we as a people came up with because of society?
Oh, you mean the fact that we take professionalism as passive aggressiveness?
No. The fact that we have to put on different skin, although being very well aware of...
But I think everyone does that.
I don't know. Some people have a different... We had an argument about my disposition towards officers.
Yeah,
because
you need to fix that.
So she says.
You need to fix that.
Why doesn't it apply to me? Because he has a gun and a badge? How come I'm never able to face a jury of my peers in a court of law? Matter of fact, George Floyd, who else? It's countless names.
Where are you going so I can...
I'm saying when there's police interactions.
Okay.
We're never allowed to get to the court of law, when they determine if you're guilty or not of whatever crime, whatever charge comes. We don't even get to that. There's never an indictment, so it can get to that.
Are you saying that we as black people are not indicted to get to court, or the officers that go about killing us aren't indicted?
They are not indicted, meaning they're on the streets as judge, juror, and execution.
Okay.
But Dylan Roof could shoot up a church, right?
Mm-hmm.
And be escorted to Burger King because the little asshole was hungry, and then to jail.
I mean, we got a homeboy that's sitting in lockup right now from the march on... I'm not going to call it the March on Washington because that'd be a disrespect. From the insurrection that took place at the Capitol, demanding that he only get organic food. And they gave it to him.
and there's not two Americas. I feel like, how could you really stand on that?
Because there's not two Americas.
What the hell?
America is a well-oiled machine. It's a I got something better. You seen Snowpiercer?
With Captain America?
Yes.
Yes.
You see it all the way through?
Yes.
Okay.
Some niggas was eating. Yeah. Uh-huh. There's always somebody has to be on top.
Listen.
Uh-huh.
Listen. We're the oil. America's a well-oiled machine because it runs off of the backs of black people. Off of the hard work. All of that. So it needs to continue to run by having someone at the bottom. So we no longer have the slavery that we had when this country kicked off. So how exactly are we going to keep the machine running? That's exactly what it is. That little boy that they had to put inside so he could scoop out the gunk, that's us. So when I say there's not two Americas and it's running exactly as it's supposed to, it is.
So should we just shut up?
No.
Then what?
No, because if we shut up, then we become complacent. So as long as we are continuing to address it and to bring it to the forefront, then there can be change.
How? It's already written into the Constitution.
But we make amendments. You keep making amendments. Or, I mean, me personally, maybe this is just jacked up because I'm young, but at a certain point, like, you shouldn't be able to be in control of the laws. I'm just like, you get to 70, 75, 80 years old, why are you making laws for the next generation? You on your way out. You're not on the way in. Why is the country run by old people? Y'all will not be here in a decade. You will not be here to see all of the bullshit that you reap right now, how it's going to affect all the generations after that.
Because they're not worried about the generations after that.
Well, then they need to go. They need to go. Because ultimately, here we are on the eve of putting another old white man in the office. He's a consolation prize. Let's call him what it is. Let's call a square a square. He's a consolation prize. And most of us are secretly like, maybe he won't make it the 4 years. And then we can get Kamala.
Yeah, I don't want to shit on her accomplishments, but
I'm not shitting on her.
I know a token when I see one.
Okay. I'm going to take a sip on that one.
You could go ahead and take a sip on that because that ties into the movie. The woman's child gets killed, right? The police chief then wants her to make a statement in front of the police because the rioting ensues afterwards. Now, what do? You take a woman in grief, a black woman, and you put her up there to calm us down.
And what's really messed up is I've grown up seeing this, but the note that I had was I never considered until this movie that the police are coming to the victims' families asking them to quell riots and protest. And it's what's worse is like I just assumed that these people's families are like, wait, this isn't what I wanted. This isn't how I would want you guys to honor or remember my child. It never clicked for me that this was like some marionette type stuff that was popping off behind the scenes where it's like, yeah, or not even marionette. Let's just straight call it a puppet. You know, we're going to sit you up here. We're going to tell you what we want you to say. And then hopefully that way, you know, oh, well, as his brother said in the movie, like, yo, this is what they do. They put the mom up here so that way the mom can say, hey, I don't want this. You know, we need to all go home. We need to be peaceful. And then the assumption is, oh, well, because the mom didn't want any of this stuff to happen, then let's all relax. Let's go home. Because if the one who is really hurting, if the mother of this slain individual is really hurting and they can ask for peace, then let's not do this. So now having that revelation, which is really quite sad, I go back to Botham Jean. Mm-hmm. Did they set up, what was that, his brother?
Mm-hmm.
Did they set him up to like, go hug her? Go tell her it's okay.
Because it's the Christian. It's the Christian. There.
Y'all already. I'm not going back. Y'all already know because y'all not gonna get me on some BS about that. But it's like I'm looking at it and I'm like, damn, did they? Because here we are. We looking at this dude like, why are you hugging this woman who killed your brother? Why? Why? Why are we talking about we forgive you?
Because we're supposed to always turn the cheek. You know what's funny? MLK.
Go ahead.
It was yesterday, right?
Yep,
we just celebrated it yesterday. And in the beginning, Dr. King was talking about this. Turning the other cheek. Malcolm X. Ironic. In this movie, his son was really into Malcolm X. Did you peep that?
I did.
The father is sitting down after having come to grips with the fact that his son was killed in front of him and he couldn't protect his baby. Mom gets on camera and telling people not to be rioting. He's at the station. He's asking her the question, why is it us? Why are we the people that always
Hold on. The quote, because I took notes.
Okay.
The quote is this. Why we got to do it peacefully? Huh? Why are we the only people in this country that are expected to do things without violence? You know what white people do when they're cross? They kill people. They don't march. They don't do protests. They don't ask permissions. They don't ask for permission. They don't ask no questions. They react with force. We saw this just last week. We saw this in Charlottesville. We see it all of the time. They don't ask. They secretly gather up their troops and they go out. We're still in City Hall trying to get permits so we can make sure that our march is sanctified. And then we're quick to get on the news and pardon or excuse the same people that tear gassed us all summer long.
That took an oath to protect and serve the people of the community.
No, they took an oath to serve and protect
corporate interest.
Thank you.
Subconsciously, I felt like this is what's being programmed for me, that when I see another white man of what looks like authority, I'm supposed to just comply. Another point in that movie that the cop makes, he would be alive
if he had just complied.
If he just complied.
But and this is where I'm like, is that the truth? Because he also says, his quote was, once a gun is drawn, it's drawn.
We're taught not to de-escalate.
Right. So the snarkiness that I thought of immediately when I heard that was like, don't that sound like some PPA shit? Like, once I start writing your ticket, I can't stop. Yeah. Like, you could just put the pen down. So I'm trying to figure out how, when you've identified that what you thought was a weapon was a cell phone because it's red. And the last time I checked, I haven't seen a red gun. You saw that it was a phone. You see that he's recording. He won't put the phone down. How is he a threat to you? Is he a threat to you because he's exposing what you actually do on these traffic stops? Was that the threat? And even in that, it's like now obviously we're watching this and it's almost like it's filmed documentary style. So it's not quite as crisp as it would be if you were watching, traditionally filmed movie. So during the scenes where you see them doing the actual traffic stop, you're seeing it through the body camera, and then through the dash camera. So you see him approach Kajani because Kajani's not coming towards him. He's getting out of the car like he was instructed to. He's holding the phone because he obviously, even though this young man has been raised in a different upbringing than what his dad had. And even though he's been educated in the ways in which you should handle, or the laws, that knowing your rights when it comes to interaction with police, he still knows that him and his father are black men, which is why he automatically goes for the phone. Right? So he knew that there's a possibility that this can go wrong. Let me record it.
Because that's the way he just learned.
What, from his dad?
No, from school. That he's allowed to record the interaction.
Okay. So he's recording it. He's out of the car now. And I don't know, because that was unclear for me. Maybe you saw. I did not see Kajani lunge at him. I didn't see him trip over the curb. But what I do see is there's like some kind of tussle real quick, I guess, where the officer is trying to get the phone. And then Kajani's probably like, no, you're not taking my phone, like any teenager would. You know, you're not taking my phone. And in that, he shoots him 3 times?
Yep. He turned to put the camera back, the phone back in the officer's face. And when he reached for the camera, saying, put the camera down, that's when you see him trip into the street. The officer had his gun drawn on him the whole entire time.
Right.
The officer had the gun drawn on him from the time that he brought the camera
And the
out.
officer lied. I don't know if you caught that when they were actually doing the trial, and he's retelling what happened, and he was like, I went to the passenger side, and he asked the young man to exit the car, or he removed. It was something with what he said about, like, he removed him, and I'm like, you never touched him. You didn't touch him until he was out of the car.
And I had the camera out already.
Right. And then I also like the language that was used here, because they initially said, when he was retelling it, he was like, there was a mild altercation with the driver and Officer Hollander about the insurance. There was no altercation. See, because in my mind, when I hear altercation, that means like, yo, like that right there, that's an altercation. I put my hands on him. I'm in Spencer's face. That's an altercation. What he said is, I'm going to get the insurance card. Oh, the insurance card's expired. Oh, okay, my bad. Let me go get another one. And then it turns into,
Put your hands on
the steering wheel. To which he complies. And then he says, sorry, this might be, I might have just given you the wrong one. I'm pretty sure I have another one in the glove box. No, just keep your hands on the steering wheel. Now, as I'm watching this scene, I'm having palpitations. Why am I having palpitations? Because I've been pulled over by the police before. I'm rustling around in my glove box with my children in the back on their way to school one morning. I'm rustling around in the glove box trying to find my insurance and registration. I can't find it. It was just 2 pieces of paper that weren't together. And I don't know why. I don't know. And I'm trying to find it. I could not find my vehicle registration. I had my insurance card on my phone. So I said to the officer, I pull it up. I had the insurance card. I hand this man my entire phone. So he has it. And I'm like, I don't know where my registration is. He says to me, he was like, oh, it's okay. I can do it the long way. And just, I can pull your license plate and I'll have all the information. So I'm still sitting here like he starts to walk off with my phone. I'm still digging around in the glove box to see if I can find this paperwork. I end up finding it. I stick my head out the window. Hey, officer, excuse me. I found it. He comes trotting back over and he was like, oh, you just wanted me to get my steps in today, huh? Ha 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 ha. I was like, no, I found it. So I then give him the stuff. He goes off and runs it. While he's running this, I have a conversation with my children. My girls say to me, instinctively, because this is the way they've been trained, which is horrible, and I feel like I might have failed them as a parent. First thing they say is, Mommy, what did you do wrong? You assume that because I got pulled over, I did something wrong. We need to have this lesson again, because I failed you. He comes back gives me my phone back and my registration and says, everything's good. He then informs me, which I tell people all the time at work, make sure you print off a paper copy of your insurance card. I know a lot of us have digital copies now. Print off a paper copy of your insurance card. And this officer tells me, because you don't want to give the police your phone. This was a white man. Thought never occurred to me. I was just like, oh, here's my insurance, But then your phone is unlocked. They can go into it if they felt like it. I don't have anything in here, but it's still like you've given all of your personal information and your private shit over to a complete stranger who's back there doing whatever they're doing.
And that gave you palpitations?
That was one. I mean, every time a cop gets behind me, I'm like,
Sandra Bland? Well, for me, every time there's a stop where I'm then pulled over by a cop, look, I know that there's officers that's going to see this, and I just want you to know, I don't think all cops are assholes, but a lot of y'all are assholes. And it's not your fault. It's the culture. It's the system. By design, you guys have to be dicks. But then you guys want us to look at you as humans that need to go home to your family and y'all out here doing a service for people. Yet, the service that you're doing for the people that you claim you're doing it for, you talk to as if we're less than gum that you could step on in the street. Why is that? Somehow, I am less than a human, or less than a father, or less than a brother, less than a son when you're interacting with me. Now, that scene that's happening in that video, in that movie, that's exactly what happened to me and my brother. See, the thing is, I wasn't driving a crappy Honda Civic. Driving behind a BMW, right? Windows down. No tints. I'm listening to my music nice and loud. It's a nice day now. This is the second time I'm getting pulled over for the day by Suffolk County police officers. There's a car in front of me. They come to a stop sign. They stop. I'm next in line for the stop sign. I hit the stop sign. I look. The cops are sitting right there. Great. Now let's be model citizens and take the extra 3 seconds. Take the extra 3 seconds not to give them a reason. But that's what's going to give them a reason. Oh, all of a sudden you want to drive like you're supposed to? You want to obey the law? Nah, we're going to pull up behind you. We're going to throw our lights on. And you know what? We're going to bullshit and lie and say you ran the stop sign. Wow. Mind you, this is the second time I got pulled over for the day. Both officers feel like they need to exit the car. Come around on both sides because they see two black males in the car.
No, I think that might be their protocol now. Because I've had two cops get out on me when it's just me. And it's I'll let you finish that one, but one of the dudes fucking scared me because I didn't even realize he was there. Go ahead.
Okay. Well, you want to run the plates? Do what you got to do. You ask for license and registration. Here you go. Why do you have such an attitude? Don't worry about my disposition. I know why I have an attitude. It's because this is common. I get pulled over, 4 times in 5 days? Something seems wrong here. Am I that bad of a driver? Am I driving aggressively? No. And even when I want to be in like a speed demon and drive crazy and stuff like that, there's never cops around when this is happening. I never get pulled over then. It's when there's nothing to do. It's a nice fucking day. But there's a quota to be made. Whether y'all want to deny it or not, It's time to pull somebody over.
It's definitely a quota.
It's time
Last
to
5 days of
get
the
some points added to that person's license. It's time to make things more expensive just to just to have a privilege. Tickets. And then my brother and I, yo, Phil, I love you, but yo, you sound like a dumbass. Yo, I studied criminal law, son. This is what they do. Just calm down. I don't want to be calm right now because I'm tired of this.
And this is exactly why I told you your disposition and you not being calm is going to cost you in the long run.
But look how I tie it back into that movie. What was that officer's response to why the child got shot?
Because he didn't comply.
And the other officer that initiated the stop, what he was saying about the attitude as to why black people, why this happens to them.
Refresh me.
This little Spanish cop that was talking about maybe it's the black and Latinos who are blaming it on them, saying that because they're criminals. I didn't commit a criminal act, but now I'm being told to get out of the car. This is my thing. I gave you my license. I gave you the insurance. And then you're pulling me out to come to the back of the car for what? So you can have a chat with me? Dude, you and I both know I did nothing wrong. You saw 2 black guys in a BMW blasting music in a predominantly white area. Right? You don't know what my business is, but you want to find out. You just want to see, oh, he's black. Let me profile him. Let me see if he has a record or something. Matter of fact, that car is very nice. Let's see if it's stolen. Because black people in stolen cars like have the windows down and blast music because we want to make the situation hot for ourselves. Bullshit. And because this stop is unwarranted, whatever, we'll just tell them that let's write them a ticket for running a stop sign. Shit like that happens every fucking day. And that's just what it's like being in New York in a police state.
I just remember why I got pulled over for that. I do. I remember. My front windshield was cracked. Straight across the front. So there you go.
They issue a ticket?
Yes.
I had to get it fixed before the court date and then show proof that it was fixed.
Yep.
And they throw it out.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I've never paid a ticket. I fight every ticket because most of them aren't right. And or they'll say to me like if you get this fixed, and then you show that it's been corrected, we'll throw it out. And you just have to pay whatever the fees were. So I think the fees came out to like, I don't know, $50 or something.
That movie did a good job of proving that, or depicting that no matter what your upbringing is, what kind of mindset you may keep, we look at you as a threat. And because we look at you as a threat, and I feel like my life is in danger as an officer, I have to gun you down because I want to go home. I want to be able to go home to my family. Meanwhile...
And Link said the same thing. We wanted to go home too. Yeah.
Stop dehumanizing us. You're not the only person here who has loved ones that they want to get to.
But that means you can't.
I'm talking about 2 Americas.
And what I'm saying, and this is why I kept saying to you that you need to take a different approach when it comes to interacting with the police. Because if you want to go home, if your mission is to go home to your children, to your wife, you can't be on the rah-rah just because this is the 4th time they pulled you over this week. Yeah, it's annoying.
You know what's interesting about what that is? Here's the underlying issue that gets swept underneath the rug.
What?
You have to have a certain level of mental dexterity if that's the case, just to be in the skin you're in, knowing that when you go out into the street, no matter where you're at, you're looked at or labeled, you're a threat, you're a super predator, you're a drug dealer, you're a gangbanger, you're a thug. And you're none of that. You're a scholar. You're a father, you're a son, you're a brother, you're a businessman, you're an entrepreneur, you're black, you're an athlete, whatever you want to put on that, whatever label you want to slap on, they don't see that. It's whatever we say you are, you are. So therefore, we treat you like this in society. The type of mental dexterity that you have to go out into the street, knowing that you're looked at as a target, as a black man, is crazy. So if you get heart palpitations from being pulled over for a cracked windshield, the type of things that go through your mind every time you see somebody that looks like you get pulled over, car searched, you're embarrassed, you're put in cuffs. Many a times I've been slammed on the hood of the squad car because, and this is before they had those cameras that, you know, they had to wear them, because I was profiled. Because I'm profiled, I get treated and my dignity is taken away. And that's what I have to wrap my head around every time I leave the house. I may not return. I live with that every single day I leave the house. It's a ton of anxiety that being a black man, you're gonna have to learn to cope with, because you're just leaving the house. You're leaving the house and you may not return to your wife, your kids, whatever your circumstances are. You may not return. What's the last thing you said to your loved ones before you left the house? If I die, most Americans don't have $1,000, 2 nickels to rub together in case some shit happens to them and they left their loved ones. They don't got money for a funeral. That's the reality. So something happens to me and I'm the breadwinner. What happens to my kids? Now you want to talk about the fatherless societies. Oh, the reason why black kids keep growing up without fathers in the home, well, you keep killing us. That's what that's what's on the mind when we leave the house. So I'm going to comply. Even though I don't like it, I'm going to comply. Give you everything that you want. While you sit there and disrespect me in until the process is done. Have a nice day. Go spend that money. Take food out of your kids' mouths because I got to pay this ticket. And I'm talking about thousands and thousands of dollars I personally have shelled away to New York State. That's the reality. But if we was to comply, then we would still just be alive, right? Doesn't happen for a lot of us. I didn't get to my point, but it's all right.
What was your point that you didn't get to?
Being black in America, being a black man in America, very difficult. So our police interactions, I may not come home. That's the reality of it.
The same is true of mine. And with that being true of mine, it's very rare that I'll get a hashtag. I will get buried somewhere deep in the ethers.
You don't think it's messed up that we're now desensitized?
I'm not desensitized to it at all. I'm not. What I know is I don't look for it. So I still have not and will not. I have not seen the video of George Floyd. I didn't see what happened to Ahmaud Arbery. I'm not watching that at all. The only video that I have seen is they released the body cam footage of them going into Breonna's house. And it was eerily familiar with this ending scene of American Skin. And I remember watching, I don't know how long that video was, But I watched that video. I was sitting, I don't know where I was, but I watched it. I know I cried. I cried a couple times during this movie. I was 6 minutes in the opening credits. My heart's in my throat and I'm crying. And like nothing has really happened yet. But I was crying. Yeah, I'm not going to watch anyone die in that manner. No.
But besides that, after the events of somebody losing their life or potential, and then they have the woman, they use the woman as a token, the black woman as a token to quell the fury. They always use another token, and it's usually another black person. You notice that?
You talking about the guy that was standing next to her?
Are you talking about in the movie itself? I'm just saying.
I'm talking about in the movie. They looked like it was like the pastor or the preacher or whatever who was like patting the mom's back. But what are you referring to?
When there is no indictment that's going to come down for officers that kill unarmed black men, right? You got you got another Sambo ass token black dude that gets up there. In real life, what's his name? After they said the one who delivered the message that Breonna Taylor isn't the officers that shot and killed Breonna Taylor.
The DA of Louisville?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know his name. One of the things that I said was watching KJ defiantly talk over his dad about white laws. It was then that I knew he was going to die. Just because for me, it's always kind of been, we've always been taught that you learn respect at home. It starts at home. And I don't think he was trying to be disrespectful to his dad. He was trying to emphasize his point. But it was in him trying to emphasize his point and continuing to talk over his father that I knew he's going to have an altercation with someone later. And he's just going to keep talking and not be quiet. And it's going to end up costing him his life because he was defiantly pushing his point. Which ties into my next point is, and I think I spoke about this a little bit when it came to my daughters. Do we hurt our children when we do and don't share the realities of blackness in a white world?
I think we hurt them.
And my thing is that I thought I was helping them.
By shielding them?
Yes. Because I knew that entering into this, I knew that entering into motherhood, one, I didn't know what my kids were going to look like at all. I didn't. So my whole thing was like, I'm very...
Why was that? Why were you questioning that?
What do you mean?
What they would look like?
Because they could have been that color or that color.
Why?
That color.
How so?
Just because of their genetic makeup. Like, what do you mean?
I mean, I seen your ex-husband. He looked like a black man.
Yeah, and his dad is milky white, and his mama is actually chocolate. And then they have these variant of kids that came out. I don't know my genetic father's side, what his people look like. So I didn't know what shade they were going. I know they were going to be black, but I didn't know which tone of black they were going to be. So for me, it was always like, okay, let me not say all of the things that I think. Let me not say all the things that I feel, because I don't ever want my kids to think that I'm talking about them. More specifically, my older daughter, who, as I said, is very fair-skinned with light blue, gray eyes. I can't be sitting here going, the white man this, or this one, this and that. And then she looks in the mirror and was like, how am I different than these white folks she's talking about? So I always tried to make sure that any issue that I was having or anything that I encountered with someone, I did not put that off on them. I wanted them to have their own experiences, and to kind of formulate their own opinion. Unfortunately, because this is America and it's doing what it's supposed to do, and 2020 was the year that it was, my children were exposed to a whole lot of things that I did not think they were going to be exposed to at 7 and 8 years old. Well, no, 8 and 9 years old. Now they're 9 and 10. But I didn't think I'd have to have the weighty discussions that we've had this past year. I didn't think that my children would understand colorism, but they do. Surprised me. I know that my kids understand their differences just because they have eyeballs. It's very easy. You know, my younger daughter, she and I have a very similar hair texture. So when she was, you know, a baby, and even now, she's very much like, Mom, I want to wear my hair out. Today's going to be a fro. Got it. When she was younger, she would have like two little, you know, well, they were huge, afro puffs on the side of her head. My older daughter was like, Mommy, I want puffs. Baby, your hair don't do that. You know, her hair does not, it's not that texture. You know, she has big, voluminous curls, but hers are like looser curls. So she can't do an afro puff. But I figured out a way to give her her equivalent of a puff. And she liked it because she wanted to be like her sister. And then I found out, I found out last weekend that my daughter cut all her hair off this past year. She asked to have a low cut. So her hair is probably about as short as Spence's.
No, it's not.
Well, the top is long. Top. If you think Holly Berry, Angela Bassett, 90s, okay, that's the cut that she's rocking right now. And I just figured she didn't want to comb her hair anymore. She went from hair being down to her butt to, you know, this shortcut. And I was like, she doesn't want to comb her hair anymore. Fine, whatever. It'll grow back if she wants. And I found out through conversations with her that the reason why she cut all her hair off is she got tired of white kids touching her hair. I was not aware. She's in school and they're lining up to go from lunch into recess or different classes. And she got tired of kids walking up and caressing her ponytail, or the black kids saying to her, this ain't your hair, this is weave. Why do 10-year-olds think that another 10-year-old is wearing a weave? What's going on? And so my daughter's response to that, to having her hair touched by people without them asking permission, for them making assumptions about her, I'll just cut it off. I didn't know this. She never told me this. She just said she didn't want her hair anymore. I said, okay. But these are the conversations that my two daughters are having together. Because when they're telling me about it, and then my youngest one is like, yeah, Mommy, she told me that. What? Like, I'm blown away with the things that our children are seeing and experiencing that we're not aware of. Like, the racism that I encounter is not going to be the racism that my girls encounter. It's not going to be the racism that Spencer encounters. One, because as our heated argument the other day proved, is I have no clue what it means to be a man. I don't, because I'm a woman. So my interactions with the police is coming from a female perspective. It's coming from a black female perspective, but a female perspective nonetheless. So my response is always, I'm not going to raise my voice at you. I'm going to give you what you want. and I'm going to give you what you want when you come up to the car and say you want it. I'm not going. I used to, when I first started driving.
They sexualize you guys before anything.
That's not any better.
I'm not saying it's better. What I'm saying is you're not a threat to them. Us, you are our opposition, direct opposition, because you have masculine energy and strength to fight us. They don't look at women the same way that they look at black men.
But I think our underlying fear is the same. Is that we know that there's a possibility that we won't go home, or that we will be irrevocably changed by our interaction with this person.
But this is America. And the fact that this is how we think and this is how we feel. You show me any black person who feels like, oh man, every encounter I had with the police was... And I show you a liar if they said it was anything less than... I'll be real with you.
Not because even Token had a shitty experience with the cops.
And he was on the force.
This was before he went to the force. But then he went and joined the force. And then got there and realized that all of the things that we all know to be true is why he left. Yeah, confirmed it.
Yeah. And for whatever reason, it seemed like black cops be worse than some white cops. Irony.
Mm-hmm.
Why is that? Are you trying to be like them? Mm-hmm. You just trying to prove that you bleed blue too? You dummy. Because I had some of the worst interactions with cops. It's like, I could have been your younger cousin. I could be your younger brother. But you don't look at me like that, right? Because you bleed blue like them.
But that's exactly what one of them, I forget which one of the officers said it in that scene when they were holding court. But it's like, no, it wasn't the officer. It was the inmate. He was like, yeah, but the black cops are worse.
Might shoot you twice, is what he said. Right?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Uh-huh. And it's like, it's really messed up because I understand that. It's like, if I see a white male cop pull up to my window, I don't know.
Show a little cleavage.
No. But you know what? White men like me. They do.
Like I said,
if it's an old white guy
first,
I'm okay. But then it's like, I find if it's a black cop, it's like, I don't know. I don't know how this is gonna go.
Here's a thought. You know what I would like? For any cops or officers of the law who watch that movie and know and can reference what we're talking about, let me know. Let us know if it's really different. If the culture inside the precinct is different what they depicted in that movie. That'd be really interesting. Because I know that there's a lot of cops. They've been on Lisa Everett's show. And they expose a lot of the culture, the cop culture, and how destructive it is for cops of color. And y'all feel like you guys have to hide behind that same blue wall of silence.
Well, we saw the female cop when they were having this conversation about it, and one of the white officers who was involved in the shooting, who was involved in the murder of Kajani, he says, he was just talking about like, yeah, but you guys are always doing this. It's always something with you guys. If you would just act this way. And so
black on black crime, bullshit statistics.
Yeah, so he was talking about that, and then the female officer, the Hispanic one, was like, wait a minute. She's like, I'm a cop, but I'm also a woman, and I'm also Latina. So how is it that you think that I don't have all of these thoughts running through my head? She's like, you're not going to doubt the fact that I'm a cop. She's like, I am. I strap on this outfit just like y'all do every day, but I'm still a woman. And I have to deal with that and that reality while being on the force, while being in this country. So it's very easy to do like a blanket statement of, well, this is the way the cops are. And it's like, I get that y'all got to back each other up, but if y'all would call some shit out when it was wrong, you would have such a better rapport with the communities that you're supposed to interact with. I feel the exact same way about the Catholic Church. Like, if y'all would call out the ones who are doing wrong, we would have more faith in the rest of you.
Nah, but it comes from the top. Their orders come from the top. Trickle down. Like a trickle down economy.
Trickle down racism?
Comes from the top. They need to see numbers. Private sector,
But see, this is the problem though. When you try to put numbers on to crime fighting, like the only spot where your numbers should matter is in the rate in which you close these cases, right?
Nah, that's not what I'm talking about.
What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the school to prison pipeline.
Okay.
That's why they said them schools is they ran like prisons. So that you're conditioned, so that, hey, when you graduate from high school and you go to prison, you already know what it's like. Straight up. Because it's big business. So instead of, like we had recruiters come to my school, right? Because it seemed like back in the 60s and 50s and things like that, they would want you to try to enlist straight after high school, college. What you need that for? Go to the force.
Well, in the 50s and 60s, you could actually do a lot more. You didn't necessarily need...
I'm not negating that. I'm not debating that at all. But I'm saying the early 2000s, graduating high school, recruiters coming in, join the Marines. You could do such and such and such and such. So basically, look at the vets in that movie. You go, you fought, you did 2 tours in Iraq. You come back to the same country that people who have the same skin type as you bled and died protecting the freedoms that we take advantage of or take for granted here in America. But once you get back, they treat you like shit.
But we've known that since World War II. We've known that since World War One.
And nothing has fucking changed. At all. At all. I don't see the value in going to go fight a white man's war. For whatever. You go over there to go get oil or take people's leaders out of power like Gaddafi. Come on, son.
But here's the thing, though. They're
destabilize their economy and do things like that. And then when you come home, after you did something that you could have felt conflicted for, as far as your morale, you get treated like shit. Ghost, he foreshadowed his death early on. He said, before he knew that they were gonna, take over the prison and everything, he said, the precinct. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, cancer. Yeah, I had my last treatment.
I had my first and last treatment. No, he said I had my last. You said that first.
I had my last treatment.
Mm-hmm.
That to me foreshadowed. Oh, okay. They plan to go and die. Somebody's gonna die. They didn't show them die or whatever. You don't know what happened to them after that. But Nate Parker's character dies. And when I'm talking about being desensitized, I didn't even jump when he got shot in the head. It's like I watch this all the time. Whether it be in movies or when you're watching the shootings of black men captured on camera and there's still no indictments.
I believe that is definitely the biggest slap in the face. the lack of indictments. I could take, and you know what? This is so fucked up. I remember when they actually indicted and then put Amber Geiger, is that her last name? When they put her on trial. And then when they found her guilty. And then when they gave her 10 years. I think everybody was like, well, at least she got indicted. I remember hearing people say that, which is wild. Because
it's a false
that's the bar. That's the bar. You got indicted. What? So
what happened to that black cop who shot that white woman? I think she was taking out her trash. She spooked him.
Yeah, he went to jail.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like 20.
Closed case, Johnson.
Yeah, but for me, it's like the thing that gets me is like it's the lack of indictments that happen. You go into these grand jury rooms, and y'all what?
Of your peers.
What happens in that room where you're just like, well, yeah, we know that you shot him, but did you kill him? Like, what? I don't get it. I can't wrap my head around it, and maybe it's because I'm not well versed in the laws and everything. But for me, it's like, if I murder you, you know that I killed them. You know that I've killed this person.
We got past that.
Is it justifiable? Was it an accident?
Don't make it stick.
Was it self-defense?
Let's go with that.
What was it? But even then, you still need to be indicted. You still need to present your evidence. You still need to go to trial.
We're not going there because the prosecution, the DA, they work with police, with law enforcement. It is what it is. Even the defense. You want to make your career? It's about numbers. It's about money. This is America. There's nothing. It's not about fairness. It's what you could prove in court. It's not about the truth. It's not about any of that. It's
not about even proving it. Here, this is the thing and I'm gonna go to Trayvon. So we all know that George Zimmerman killed Trayvon.
Mm-hmm.
How is he not guilty?
Stand your ground law in Florida.
But it wasn't his ground. It wasn't his property.
Because the antecedent.
Because isn't the stand your ground law very similar to the castle doctrine? So if it's in your house, you can then act. You're out on a public street. So it can't be stand your ground, especially when you shoot someone in the back. They're not coming towards you. Or what is he doing? Sprinting to you backwards? Like,
the fact of the matter is, the boy had Skittles in Arizona. He went to the store. He was wearing a hoodie. And you the neighborhood watch. So you super cop. But you're not a cop. You get on the phone with dispatch. They're telling you, do not pursue. You still pursue. However, you have a gun on you. Trayvon didn't come to you. You picked a fight with him. This boy's minding his business and wants to get home. You're a grown-ass man. Then you shoot him. Now he's dead. And now you want to claim self-defense. You can't beat a bully, then get your ass whooped, and now you want to cry self-defense. Sorry. That shit does not compute for me. And for everybody that was on that damn jury, except for one. Because one person came out and talked about how they were pressured so that they could get the fuck up out of there. Should have been hung. But it's like, you know what? It's just another black body. Who cares? Who cares? What came first? Was that Trayvon and then what's his name? And there's so many of them. There's Freddie Gray, right? Who was the one that was in custody?
Freddie Gray.
That was him, right?
Yeah, I think Freddie was after.
And in between that, there was another Mike Brown.
I thought Mike was before
Trayvon. I'll check into that. But I thought Trayvon came first, then Mike Brown.
At this point, does it even fucking matter?
The fact of the matter is, if you're lighter skin, you ain't got to worry about certain things. It seems like it's just funny how when we get into these conversations about cops and that brutality and white people and their view on everything like that, they seem to be together on that.
What do you mean?
Like, Blue Lives Matter says to me, white lives matter. That's how it's looked at. And anything...
Because here's the thing. There's no such thing as a blue life.
There's not.
Because the same way that I go to work every day and I wear a uniform, I take that sucker off when I come home. So, any cop, they take off their uniform when they come home. You know what? The most poignant thing, and I'm gonna go to a whole nother movie for this. The most poignant thing that I ever saw on film, Inglourious Bastards. If you've seen it, you know that Brad Pitt's character, Brains, made it. There you go. Made it his business that when he was tracking down the Nazis, he was like, so when you leave here, you're going to take off your uniform, right? And no one's going to know that you were a Nazi? I'm going to fix that for you. And he would then go and carve a swastika in their forehead.
Brand them.
So they're not walking around with their police badge on their forehead. And we know that that's abundantly clear because I don't even remember this man's name. Remember the black cop that was off duty that got killed by white cops?
Mm-hmm.
When he told them that he was a cop? It doesn't matter. You cannot worry about a blue life because there's no such thing as a blue life. There's black lives, there's white lives, there's yellow lives, there's red lives. Whatever
I've never
other color
seen a yellow person,
you want to add, because you know they always got to make it.
They got to stop saying that shit. The only yellow people I've ever seen was on The Simpsons. So not for real. There's no yellow. Yo, white people. Some of them y'all be white like paper. A lot of y'all be peach colored.
Well, that's why I just put, when I say black and brown, that's anybody that's not blatantly white. Like Asians, come on over here. You one of us. You may not want to be, but you over here with us. It's just the reality. So
we were talking about mental illness, though.
Oh yes, do you want to do that? Because I wanted to dig more into the jury's conversations that they had with Hollander.
All right, do that first.
Okay, so the jury's conversation where they start questioning what the testimony. So it's the first assertion is, oh, they were speeding. And they're like, okay, so what did you clock us at? Oh, we didn't clock you. So how do you know we were speeding? Oh, I just gauged it visually. Listen, I drive every day for work. I get into my car. I get on the turnpike. Don't send me no tickets. I got up to 102 and didn't realize that I was doing 102 one day. And then I looked and I was like, oh, I'm going too fast. But the 102 and 70 felt about the same in the car. So
German.
So what I'm trying to figure out is how it is that you can just visually clock. Now, maybe after years on the force, you can do that, because I know for a fact when I worked in the deli department, I can weigh out a pound of cheese in my hand. I know what it feels like. Skills. And I would cut it thin for you too. Anyway, so I'm just trying to figure out how you can clock somebody going over the speed limit, right? And then immediately got your card pulled because he was like, there's a speed bump right before that stop sign and right after it. So what you saw was a slow down enough for you to realize two black guys in the car. And then you pulled out. So one of the jurors asked about that. How do you know how fast they were going?
So do you make it up as you go?
Yeah, he's like, so you make it up as you go.
No.
Right.
Okay.
Then there was the conversation of we hit on it earlier about class over race, right? What I thought was one of the most poignant things.
Yeah. So word of the day.
Have I said that a lot?
Welcome to dialect.
Some days I do be using the same words a lot. And that wasn't proper grammatical English. Y'all had to excuse me. I have moments. I slip back. What the scene between, and I forgot this officer's name, but the one who decided he was going to be the defender of the officer who killed Kajani, the Hispanic dude, he starts talking his stuff. What I realized, what I thought was really interesting in this entire scene, is that all of the jury members, all of the inmates who were on the jury, none of them raised their voice. None of them got animated. It was all of the cops who got animated, right?
Except for the one juror that felt like,
yo, that one.
They got good points. Gonna lock me up for some bullshit charge, dude.
Yeah, but you see, he only attacked that officer because you kept seeing that he had a black eye. So are you the officer who arrested him and beat him up?
Yeah,
which made me...
He said, you talk shit, you get beat up.
Right.
That's what happened.
Exactly. Uh-huh. Which made me upset because immediately you have this black captain. The black captain is sitting here like, oh, see what you've done. Now you've got prisoners attacking the police. But you said nothing when your officer beat this man before y'all put him in a cell. Because if you had said something about it, he wouldn't have been so flippant with his response to that man getting a couple of hits in. That was one thing. I noticed also how Hollander made the comment, and we hear this quite often as black folks. Oh, but I got a black friend. We can't be racist. We got a black captain. And as the inmate or as the juror member said to him, he was like, that's like saying you can't be sexist because you're married to a woman. What sense? Like, come on. They were coming with points. So what I liked is that the jury remained calm. Or that's what I noticed. That they remained calm while the officers got animated. And then you have the Hispanic officer and the Hispanic juror. Now, the officer, loud, hype, getting up.
I bet you put your captions on so you knew what he was saying then.
First of all, my captions stay on. Don't disrespect me. But there were no captions for the Spanish portion.
That's what I'm saying. So you didn't have captions on?
I didn't have captions for that. It just it blanked out. They didn't have captions for the Spanish portion.
I wonder if that's done on purpose.
It was.
We don't want you to know what he's saying to him, but you just see his reaction. Like, you think you know about me?
Right. Now, here's where I was like, oh my God, I've met these people. So, the inmate is speaking to the officer in Spanish. The officer understands.
But he's replying.
But replies only in English. And he's getting angrier because this inmate is calmly saying to him,
use a sell-out, son. It's lost, yo.
Like, come on. And then for him to go, yo, you don't know me. You don't know what I've been. No, I don't. But I do. We all know them people. Those people exist in each one of our communities. We got them in the black community, the Hispanic community, and the white community, and the Asian community. There's always that one person or multiple people who are like, I'm not like these niggas. I'm sorry, not niggas. I'm not like the niggers. That's not, I'm better than that. Mm-hmm. You know, and you think that if somehow you dress yourself up and make yourself presentable, you'll be accepted more. Or if I'm more malleable and I do what's expected of me, right? Then it's okay. Everyone's going to be.
If I correct my diction and the vernacular in which I use it and I present it, it's a well-articulated expression. They're going to be like, it's a good nigga.
But you could see that in his discussion, not only with that inmate, but even the other jurors, because he immediately got pissed off and was like, why is he speaking? If you're going to do it like they do in court, why is he speaking? And he was like, no, they can talk. They can talk. Because they've done something that's contrary to what he's accustomed to. Mm-hmm. This is why he lashed out.
And he said, you don't make the rules.
Right. So.
Power dynamic.
That's exactly what it is. And we all know those people. there are the idealists who get into these public service jobs who are like, I'm going to do better. I want to help my community. And then you get in there and like Token, you immediately realize, yo, I can't fix this. I got to get out.
Like OC?
Like who?
Cortez?
Who the hell is Cortez?
Forget it. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay. Maybe I'll catch up later.
Politics.
Some days I'll be slow. Oh, AOC. Oh, okay. Got it. So you get in and then they immediately get out. Or you get the ones who like have had a hard on since they were 6 years old. I'm going to be a cop.
Cops and robbers.
I'm going to be a cop.
You get them.
You know, and then they go in there with this, you know,
ideology.
This militaristic ideology.
Them.
Exactly. And they don't understand that that's not what you're there to do. Like, let's keep it a buck. Cops don't solve crimes. Because if they solve crimes, we wouldn't have crime. You know, this would be what Tom Cruise's movie.
Oh my God.
We're not there. Minority Report. My man.
No. I was about to talk about the precogs.
Okay.
When you said that, that's crazy.
This is why we here.
That is fucking nuts.
So what I'm saying is, they don't do that. They show up after the fact. So if your house has been burglared, if someone has been murdered, they're coming afterwards, and then they're going to do their best to try and piece the story together. But what we've learned as a community is you're not really helping us. Or if it was one of your own, you're definitely not helping us. You're going to stonewall it. You're not going to give us all the facts that we need. And these folks still get to go home at the end of the night because, as the white juror said later on, well, it's got to be very traumatic to kill someone.
You know,
well, yeah.
All three of those white jurors in there said not guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think, what did he say? The responsible young lady. I don't think she did. But I know the dude, she did? Okay. So she did, the white dude did it, and then the thicker white lady.
Choose that.
Yeah, when she says, you know, well, it's got to be traumatic to have just murdered a child. And then the young white girl comes in and was like, well, it's also got to be traumatic to watch your son die. Why is it that it's always immediately the reputation of the cop? Because the minute that we get killed, whether we were innocent, whether we were robbing the bank, you're going to pull out the fact that I got suspended from kindergarten in 1992 because I cut Susie Q's ribbon out of her hair.
It was 1992 for me too.
It was 92. 92. I think that might have been first. I don't remember. But anyway, that's what you go to. Well, what about the reputation? Why is that so important? What was also, the jury's sitting around and they're talking and they're discussing all of the things that is pertinent to the case, right? But then you start to realize how their ideologies go in separate directions. Mm-hmm. Like the inmate, what I really appreciate though is that the one inmate was like, yo, you know what I've seen cops do? You know what I've lived through?
He's like,
and you want me?
Trust me to be.
He's like, you trust me?
To be impartial?
And so Nate goes, do your best.
Yep.
And homie sat there in that moment and went, I'll do what I can.
Honest.
Respectful.
You go with your conscience. But
you got anything to add on to that?
Amazingly, since it feel like we're kind of wrapping up, the spin that happens afterwards.
You don't want to talk about Jordan? You don't want to talk about Jordan's monologue?
Well, that was what was used to drive them to his side, where he's appealing, which is something that happens a lot. Let's appeal to the human side of everybody and just put yourself in a position of being a parent and just being sick and tired of everything that you see on the news about a cop killing a kid and a parent having to then bury said child. It's the reason why I don't even know the officer's name or the guy who's playing the officer. Ironically, he did this in another movie too, and I wonder if that's the reason why they. If anybody's seen 7 Seconds with
Was that Regina King?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I think same actor.
It is. It is.
Killed a kid.
Mm-hmm. He's typecast now. That's just his role.
Yo, that's some good ass acting, son. But the front, like you stumbling over your lines to say that you know to illustrate grief or remorse because of how difficult the job is. If you have a job and it's not to kill kids, I think if you killed a kid, yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
When they're driving home the human side, then you see them deliberate. They come back and they find him guilty. Given the facts that, you profiled him and now he's dead. Come back, guilty verdict.
Yep. I think, again, this is coming from the inmates when they were talking about being impartial with the vote. The quote was, excuse me, "Do you all think you can be fair and impartial regardless of the consequences?" That's what Nate asked. That's what his character asked. And one of the inmates said, "The real question, my brother, is will you go all the way with the consequences if we do?" So it was already asked earlier in the movie what he would do if they found him guilty. He said, "I don't know." So they find this officer guilty. He pulls out his phone, pulls out the officer's phone. He says, "Call your wife and kid." He calls the wife and kid, and they're talking, and he's essentially saying goodbye. And you see the horror and the terror on his wife's face as he's saying goodbye to her. And he doesn't even let her finish. He just hangs up the phone. And then there's a few moments of silence. Everyone's sitting there looking around. And Mr. Jefferson reaches for that 9.
That was dope how he did though. Like no warning, just
nothing. Nothing.
Click.
Pulls it out, puts the gun to his head. Everybody in there, the cops are trying to, get over. They've been chained to the desk. They can't get over.
The way that they're losing their minds.
Yeah.
Like, a cop is about to die.
Yeah.
It's not the same energy when
no
a child gets killed.
No.
Another black man gets killed, gunned down in the street.
Right. He pulls the trigger. The gun is empty. He only wanted to emphasize that the feeling that he felt with one watching his child die in his arms. 2, the feeling that he knows he'll never see his child again. A lot of times we give these, I don't want to call them false platitudes because I think people might genuinely mean them, but you offer your condolences when someone has died, right? I feel for you. I can never imagine. And in most cases, we can't. But he allowed this man the opportunity to feel what he felt and what he had been feeling and living with all of this time. Not only that, he also gave his wife the opportunity to feel that. Because she's the one who would be hurt by it, not the officer, because he would no longer be here. The folks who still live are the ones who have to bear the weight of that grief. So hopefully this experience has changed his wife's thought process. We don't know what her thought process is. I assume it's probably in tandem with her husband's, because she was more of like, "Oh, I see that are you guys coming out? Is everything okay?" It wasn't like, "Oh, wait a minute. the dad of that guy that you killed is holding your hostage. It wasn't that kind of energy.
It was joyous at first.
Yeah.
Kind of like these type of things don't happen. We don't have this type of anxiety when you go out into the streets.
Right.
It's expected that you're going to return home.
Exactly. So that scene for me was like, okay, all right. And it was that scene that told me he was going to die. When did you know?
Oh, yeah, no, I know. It was foreshadowed. When his wife was saying, I need you to survive this. I need you to come home. Home, like the real home with me.
You think she was talking about like home with Kajani?
With her. That they can start over. It's a 14-year-old kid that lost his life. You want to start over? It's not like you just have more kids. Like that doesn't remedy shit.
No.
And yeah, I think he knew that he wasn't gonna live. So you hands up, and you're looking at the camera, and you're telling homeboy put the camera down. Like he knew he wasn't gonna end, and then boom, lo and behold. And you know what comes after that? The smear campaign.
That closing scene where my last point was
that
the
bugging?
way...
Was the woman who was saying that he was suffering from mental illness
Black?
No. The same woman that was the wife on the phone?
You were bugging. That wasn't her.
You sure?
Yeah.
I don't want to be on this all white people look alike because I know
No, that wasn't her. Because the wife on the phone was Anna McCord. I only remember her because I think she was in like the OC or she was on 90210. But I remember her for this reason. Because Shorty was like 20 and was dating Dominic Purcell.
Come on, son.
Anyway, here's my thing. She was 20. Her boyfriend was like 22 years her senior. And I was like, oh, this is mad weird.
20 and he's 42?
He was older than that.
Oh, okay.
He was the older brother in Prison Break. Never mind. Y'all know who I'm talking about. But yeah, so I knew her face from that. But my next point was the way that the media handles Black Death. Mm-hmm. You know, because we've all heard that if it bleeds, it leads, right? So we go right into, oh, like you said, the smear campaign. Oh, he was connected with terrorists. Oh,
Islam affiliate.
Right. There was also something that I noticed, and I'm like, I don't know if I'm the only one that caught it, but anybody who has military in their family, you probably caught it. When they were like, oh, ex-Marine linked Jefferson's, and I'm like, oh no, that's a former Marine. You don't say ex.
Right.
Right. And I was like, oh, the disrespect. Yeah. So you're disrespecting like the service that he did too.
Like there was a dishonorable
charge. Right. That could be me projecting. I don't know. My dad was in Nam. But what I'm saying is, this is former. It's not ex. Like you don't. So you're disrespecting his title for one. Then they go into, oh, he suffered from mental illness. The only mental illness that man had was probably the PTSD from watching his child and holding his child as his child lost his life.
Yep. Why I say that's all irony and why there's two Americas is because the smear campaign happens where they justify shooting and killing Black people based on mental illness, right?
But when white folks do it, like Dylan Ruth, he was mentally ill.
So mental illness, the excuse to kill us, is the same excuse to liberate or pity whites. Irony. Because it's like you could equate that to the crack epidemic that happened in the 80s. Throw it in the hood. Mandatory minimums for, You guys should check out Netflix and see something called crack, because that affected my city the hardest. But for the same drug, just in a powder form, that, only the rich could really afford. It's treated completely different. Today, opioids. White kids getting infected by. It's an epidemic. And it has to be treated like a sickness.
I went on a whole rant because gotta love Facebook. Facebook brought up my, that time hop this time last year. Mm-hmm. So last year, I was still doing the whole Uber and Lyft thing, and I ended up in South Philly, and there's a Starbucks on Broad Street. I don't remember, Broad and Jackson, somewhere around there. But I ended up going to this Starbucks because it was early in the morning and I had to pee. I get into the Starbucks and I was instantly pissed off in this bathroom. I walk into the bathroom and they have a Sharps box on the wall. And the bathroom is lit with blue light. Do you know what that means? Okay. So you have blue light because it makes it harder for you to see your veins. But you got a Sharps box. So y'all are just like actively advertising. Oh yeah, come in here and shoot up, right? I put this on my Facebook and I was like, so this is what we doing now? Now, my dad commented on it and was like, oh, he said something. I don't remember exactly what it was. What I really pinpointed on is this former coworker of mine, a white guy. He was like, that's not what it's for. That's for people who have diabetes. I have diabetes. You have to check your, your levels and everything. And I'm like, listen, people had diabetes for years. I've never seen a Sharps box. I worked for a drugstore for 5 years. We never had a Sharps box in our bathrooms. Period. So all of a sudden, we now have a certain demographic, the whites, are now being affected by the opioid crisis, right? And now you want to put Sharps boxes in Starbucks? Because let's be real. Starbucks is the upper echelon of coffee, especially with the price tag that comes along with it.
That shit is trash.
I like Buc-ee's.
Stop.
I only like Buc-ee's because I like Teavana, but then they bought Teavana, so now I can't just get my regular tea. I gotta go to Starbucks to get my tea. I'm a tea snob.
Buy out the competition.
Okay. So, but it was like South Philly, traditionally white neighborhood. Starbucks, traditionally white company. I mean, y'all was just calling the cops on folks just about 2 miles up the road because they were loitering. It's fucking Starbucks. What are you supposed to do? How long does it take you to drink a coffee? Because you can get that to go.
Then why have seats in outlets so you can have your little laptop?
Because Dunkin' barely has seats for you. But trust me, somebody's pop with his newspaper going to find a way to sit at Dunkin' for 4 hours sipping on that old coffee. We've all seen it.
Paying customer. So
we've all seen it. I mean, I don't care. Because exactly, you paid for it. You can sit here. So that pops up on my timeline. I was immediately triggered like, oh my God, I remember this. This is trash. But the way that the media portrays all of these things, and you peeped at the end. So after they get finished, smearing him and talking about him, they go right into,
sports.
Let's talk about the sports. And then they're talking about some new black athlete that is the new Messiah who's going to take them to the promise. I'm like, this is what they do.
Slavery.
It's just
slavery. Y'all can go ahead and figure that out. How it ties into slavery.
Oh,
it's what it is.
This is the second project that I've seen that Nate wrote, directed. I know the first one, he paid for that himself, raised the money for Birth of a Nation himself. And unfortunately, because of his past, that didn't get the level of play that it should have gotten. Because again, when we put out positive things for the black community, they're going to find ways to smear so that you don't get to see it or so that you don't want to contribute to it.
Go pay the money.
Please.
On Amazon Prime to watch American Skin. Support that brother.
Matter of fact, save the $6.99. Just go for the straight $12.99 and buy it. Because I'm mad that I didn't buy it initially. I'm just going to buy it because I want it in my life. I really do. Great project. This man is a genius. I like the levels to his work. He's very subtle. He does a lot with like almost nothing. And then as you watch the entire project, you then realize that he knew he was going to do this at the very beginning. When he said, how do you get it to go? Because remember when he was talking about like submitting it to different like film festivals?
So like who's gonna see this?
Right.
I remember.
And so at the very end, afterwards, when he doesn't shoot this man, he sits down and he says to Jordan, the filmmaker, so this can be seen worldwide now. And it clicks for Jordan in that moment.
So that there's actually real change. Dope. So I hope you guys like this. Though there's a lot of pieces that we didn't touch on, go watch it for yourself. This is Dialect.
Good night.
Peace.